things in life give me greater joy than what I'm doing today. First of all, I'm at the wonderful Mottisfont in Hampshire, and secondly, I'm with my amazing friend Howard Green. You may well know his name from his writing. He co-authored Soulful Nature with me. You may have been on one of our Spring Saunter retreats. But Howard, it's amazing to be walking with you today and just spending a few minutes chatting.
Hi, it's really, really good to be not only here with Brian at our beloved Mottisfont, but being able to say hello to the Lent community.
It's just amazing seeing and hearing the water babbling, isn't it, from this crystal clear water that's risen up from the earth. We'll see the font in a few minutes, but you can see some
snowdrops over here, just coming out.
What is it that you particularly love about Mottisfont, Howard? You've been an outdoor guide here for a long time now.
Yeah, well, it's I think I've come to love the place because it's a wonderful example of what Oliver Rackham describes as ancient countryside. He describes ancient countryside as a landscape which has not really changed very much for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And here in this little corner of West Hampshire, the hedges, the lanes, the footpaths, the footprint of the woodland, the rivers, the roads and the tracks have really remained unchanged for a very long time, and it's therefore precious and beautiful. And of course it's then got the chalk streams, just the wonderful chalk streams with their crystal clear water.
We're at the what we call the font or the wellspring here, which is one of my favourite places on earth, I think. But tell us a little bit about it.
Well, this spring has been flowing from an aquifer, a lake deep underground in the porous chalk for hundreds, thousands of years. It was contained in this pool with the flints around the side and now the fence, probably early in the 19th century, but it would have just bubbled out in the corner of a field or a meadow for a long, long time before it was contained. And it's always been a sacred place, this. The name Mottisfont means a meeting place by a spring. The first part of the word comes from Old English and the second part from Latin, font or funter, spring. And it's always been a meeting place, and we think that the Celts and their Druid priests would have gathered here. And then the Anglo-Saxons would have had their village moots or meetings by this spring. So it's not only a place where they would have got fresh water for their day-to-day use, but it would have been a sacred place, a special place.
I think one of the joys of being at this spot, Howard, is that it reminds me of all the people that we have gathered here with. You talked about the Anglo-Saxons gathering here. All the people who have gathered here on spiritual retreat as well, and who have paused for a few minutes at this beautiful wellspring to reflect on the wellspring of their own life. What's the source for them of life, love, joy, energy? What you got there?
Well, one of the things I love about wintertime and just after the storms we've had, and I think we've had 9 storms this winter, named storms, is that it brings down these twigs with these absolutely exquisite lichens. Just, I think we write quite a bit about lichens in Soulful Nature, but just look at these. There's several different species here, and lichens are these amazing symbiotic combinations of an alga and a fungus living together, and they grow very slowly, and they grow in the most inhospitable places on these tiny twigs. And yeah, they're just one of the many most beautiful miracles, and we tend to just trample over them and tread on them and miss the beauty of these tiny organisms.
So we're just taking a little sit down in the winter garden, and it struck me that it's lovely to be in a winter garden because I think so often we spend our winter wishing it away, don't we? Thinking, oh, spring won't be long, spring won't be long. Yeah. Whereas actually there's so much beauty within this, and it doesn't just have to be beauty. Actually, the starkness, the clarity, the resilience that you get from being within winter. We've got a robin just coming right to our feet there. There he is. Yeah, so it's important not to wish seasons away if we can help it, isn't it? It's an important spiritual principle, and there's so much to be gained from just being within winter, even as we think about the transition into spring. I mean, in Lent, we're caught on that threshold space, aren't we? In more ways than one.
And it's time. It takes time. You know, Lent is 40 days, and Christ was in the desert for a long time, and it took that time for him to go through the process, I guess, that God had in store for him. And in the same way, the seasons need their time, and winter, when we've had leaf fall in the autumn and the leaves just need the rain and the snow to rot away and be drawn into the soil to recycle the vital nutrients that they contain, ready for the next generation of growth. But it all takes time, so we need to be patient. And enjoy each season. This is another gem of the winter garden, witch hazel, Hamamelis, with its stunning yellow flowers with these long finger-like petals, and also a beautiful scent. And with the lichens, can you see the lichens clustered here? I think they're probably my all-time favourite plants, lichens, when I think about it. Just down this stem, look, with the beautiful flowers of the Hamamelis and these wonderful pale, greeny, silvery fronds of the lichens. I always think that old trees in the winter, when their leaves are off, just remind me of being in a cathedral. Just the amazing structure and form of that stunningly beautiful old plane tree.
Yeah, Howard was just saying about how cathedral-esque these plane trees are, and I love to look up into the space between the branches and let the space open up, not just up there as you become conscious of the space, but also within as well. We make a connection between the inner life and the outer life, and realize that there is just this gorgeous sacred space that opens up all around us and deep within us, as well as we find ourselves back within the beauty of creation as part of the beauty of creation.
Another wonderful
Suits
like
you.
it. Another. My own journey of faith has gone from a lot of order to increasing disorder and then a bit of reordering. And I think, in fact, Richard Rohr was writing about that this week in his daily reflections, that process that it's important to go through of seeing it all in black and white and getting it all sorted out and knowing the word, as it were, but then having to broaden and deepen, and that time of disorder before you can begin to reorder. And part of that reordering for me has been about discovering the mystical side to the Christian faith and the mystical side of creation. And there's an awful lot of mystery even in the scientific world still, and I think that appreciation has been very helpful, of seeing that, just that sense of the unknown and the unexpected and the delights that can come from the unexpected and the extraordinary, which is in the everyday and the ordinary. So it's become a really wonderful, enriching journey I think we've had together.
We reach a place beyond words when we are outside, I think, in creation and with God, where we do enter that mystery, but there is perhaps a comfort, a quiet assurance, even though we can't understand everything, that we are somehow part of this natural world, and we can trust the process. And I find that incredibly comforting. But to do it together as well is to share that. We draw strength from the groups that we've walked in. We draw strength from walking together or with others, and with God. And also, I mean, if I just turn this around here, I think you can see the trees. We draw strength as well from our companions in nature, like these amazing trees, who have so much to teach us in their own quiet way. Look at this fellow here, just standing, being itself. And we are here within it.
Yeah, and I want to tell you that Brian and I love the oldest tree on the Mottisfont estate is about a quarter of a mile across these meadows that we're walking now, the old Mottisfont oak. The Oakley oak, it's also known as, and it's around about 1,000 years old. Just an incredible tree, isn't it? We love it. But what's even more remarkable about the Mottisfont oak is I've spoken to people in the village here in Mottisfont who remember crawling through a large hole at the base of it into its hollow trunk when they were children, and yet that hole has healed itself up. And I just think there's a very, very powerful image there of the way this ancient tree has healed itself, and it still has lots of leaves in the summer, produces crops of acorns, and has been there for 1,000 years. What an incredible metaphor that is for patience, resilience, the fact that even the toughest experiences we have in life we can know healing. And so the wonderful old Mottisfont oak, eh?
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
One of the traditions of Lent has always been the going without, hasn't it? And giving up alcohol or coffee or whatever. But there's, for me, just something more ongoing about treading more lightly on the earth.
Yeah.
And that abstinence is around a life of what we need rather than what we want. The tough thing in life is about changing habits, isn't it? Those ingrained ways in which we behave, and you have to work at that, and it takes time to change your habits. So yeah, that development of the idea of abstinence is I think a bit of a Lent theme, or will be for us. Those of you who've read Soulful Nature may remember that in November we visited Kingley Vale, a nature reserve just north of Chichester, and one of the great features of Kingley Vale is a group of very, very ancient yew trees, and I love the yew, and there's one just over the river there, and it's growing in the summer. If you look in the shade of two very large beech trees, and yew will sit in the woodland in the shade and grow slowly and persistently and resiliently. It doesn't need to be in the limelight, it doesn't need to be the biggest tree or the most splendid tree, but it hangs on in there. And then if we turn around, there's just another amazing yew tree that we're just standing under here, and it's growing right up against an enormous plain. And can you see the way in which its roots are intertwined with that great big old plain? And I just love that, that close growing and intertwining together, as if the tree is dependent on, in love with even, the old plain.
Oh, lovely.
Drawing its strength and in that close proximity, and the way in which we just each day pray that we'll grow that little bit closer to God's heart of love.
Oprah Winfrey wrote this lovely book called What I Know For Sure, and it inspired me to think, what do I know for sure? Is there anything, what? And I really wanted to ask you that question. What do you know for sure?
Well, an interesting question, and I've been thinking about that, and jotted a few things down. Here they are. A few very brief things that I think I know for sure. The world is beautiful. Secondly, I played my part in messing it up, and I'm sorry for that. The third one is that dualism is wrong. Everything is joined up. Everything is sacred. The next one, it's important to have a few good friends and family you love. And the next one is, the older I get, the less I know for sure. And from experiences Jan and I have had of loss, that loss can help you grow. And yeah, another one, the ordinary is extraordinary. A good laugh goes a long way. And dogs know about unconditional love. And by the way, the last one for now, there is only one God of love. Look at that tiny, tiny twig with probably 20 or 30 minute little lichens in there, bringing a bit of brightness and colour into winter.
Tell us about moss capsules.
So those tiny stalks you can see just at the top of that patch of moss on the branch of this willow, you can see a little tiny pale green little pod at the top of the stalk, and that's where the moss is going to be produced and is going to soon shed its spores into the wind as its reproduction. And at the tip, the very tip, there's a tiny, tiny little lid called an operculum that when it dries will pop off and reveal these amazing microscopic teeth that are hygroscopic, so they open when it's dry and close when it's wet. So as the atmosphere dries, the teeth will open and allow the spores out, because that's when they will spread, when the air is dry and there may be, hopefully be a current to blow them away. There will be some current of air, even if it's very small. And then when it's moist, the teeth close and keep the spores in their little tiny capsule, just waiting for it to dry again and the teeth can open. And these are very small ones. You need a microscope to see the peristome. We couldn't really leave Mottisfont on a glorious day like this in January, would you believe it, without having a look at the great plane tree, which is the most talked about tree in the grounds of the house. Very different to the understated Mottisfont oak. This wonderful, huge giant of a plane tree that's been sitting by the Abbey stream, growing, probably for getting on towards 300 years. Probably not the oldest plane tree in England, but certainly one of the biggest. And the left-hand tree is probably originally something like a sucker that grew out from the roots of the main tree on the right. So it's joined up, and one of the wonders of trees and the way they grow together is that they're all interconnected by this underground network of fungi which allow the trees to communicate with each other. Mycorrhizal networks, they're called, and immortalized in the modern phrase, the wood wide web, that in woodland all the trees in a forest are connected with these amazing networks of fungi that carry nutrients and chemical messages from tree to tree and create a living community of trees joined by fungi. Isn't that amazing? And one of the least understood habitats on the earth is the soil, the world of the soil.
Yeah, we talk about that on our retreats, don't we? And so much that goes on beneath the surface that we can't see. And the darkness and the mulch and the decomposition, seeds lying dormant for a season.
And that within a cubic metre of good soil, there are more living organisms than there are people on planet Earth. And that's everything from badgers and moles, big things that we can know about and see, to tiny, tiny microscopic, tiny insects, tiny worms, bacteria and fungi that live in their abundance in community, recycling nutrients in the soil. And it's one of the devastating impacts that we've had on the natural world, the degradation of our soils through industrial scale agriculture and the overuse of agrochemicals like pesticides and fertilizers have done huge damage, massive machinery in ever expanding fields with the destruction of hedgerows. As much as we're concerned about things like climate change, soil is precious.
So remembering that wherever we stand stand on holy ground, and no wonder someone like Thich Nhat Hanh says that the real miracle is not to walk on fire or water, but to walk upon the earth. So perhaps if all we do this Lent is to remember to tread lovingly and lightly upon this sacred earth once more, then that might be one step at a time, but a step in the right direction.
Definitely. Amen to that.